Dr. H. Wainhouse is the Distinguished Research Professor of Theology, Law, Culture, and Archaeology at Faith International University and Seminary in Tacoma, Washington. He and his wife, Irina, have taught and directed many tours in the Mediterranean and Middle East, including Israel, Greece, Egypt, Jordan, Italy, and Turkey, particularly with the Biblical Archaeological Society. Dr. House has taught biblical and theological studies at several universities and seminaries during a teaching career of over 50 years and has written 150 articles and 50 books, including the Evangelical Dictionary of World Religions, The Jesus Who Never Lived, Exposing False Christs and Finding the Real Jesus, the Zondervan Handbook of Biblical Archaeology, Israel, the Land and the People, an Evangelical Affirmation of God's Promises, and editor of the Nelson NKJV Study Bible and Nelson New Illustrated Bible Commentary. Dr. House is the general editor of the Evangelical Exegetical Commentary Series, 44 volumes, with logos, Faith Life. It is the knowledge amassed from these experiences, along with the assistance of biblical scholars at a variety of universities and seminaries throughout the world, that provides the information contained in his latest project, the House Visual Study Bible Online. Thank you for joining Archaeology in the Lands of the Bible with Dr. H. Wainhouse.
And welcome to the Fellowship of the Book, where
back.
we try to do serious stuff, but only if we can have fun in the process.
That's right.
You know, after hearing that introduction, I would listen to this man.
Unbeknownst who it is, but that's okay.
I'm not saying who, but you know, whoever would do
but this man, whoever this man may be, he's one to be listened to. So, so Dr. House is in the house, and the rest of the group is here. Pastor Faber, who tries to keep us in a straight and narrow. Dr. Williams, who can remind me sometimes that I don't know as much as I pretend I do. Although I'm aware of that anyway. So,
there we go.
So,
but you have one of the best programs online here.
There is
That's
our noontime one, and we do have fun with that for sure. So.
That is. I've been on there several times, and it's been one of the most interesting and fun times I have on when I do interviews and stuff. It's great. What do you call that now?
We call it the unknown webcast because it's largely unknown. But someday it'll be known. What are we going to do? We'll still call it the unknown webcast because
why not?
That's how we are. Because I hate change. So
that's right. And you don't turn left.
And I don't. Not even when I'm driving. Makes trips interesting. So, Dr. House, what do you want to talk to us about today? Anything in particular?
Well, we're continuing our look, you know, just remember the places we've gone to together and things we've hopefully learned going to those places. You never, get it all. I mean, no matter what you do, it takes years to an interaction with the various source places and museums and things like that. And so, but we're now coming down from the area of Jordan, what I'm calling, you have the River Jordan, and it's going to go by some places on the way down into the Dead Sea, as you know. So I took you on the eastern portion, and we did some things in some of the cities of the Decapolis there. And can anybody remember any of those cities that we looked at in the area that is the east of the Jordan River and the the Dead Sea?
El something was the one up. You're talking about the
El Haman.
Yeah, El Haman. I think it was one.
Tall
El Haman.
Yeah.
That was a tongue twister.
But then you also have the cities of Jerish.
Yes.
And what else?
Wasn't there Gennesaret or something?
Hebron.
Petra.
Okay, Petra, that's in the far south.
Oh, too far.
Okay, so of course we looked at some places like Pella, as you said, and I think you did, and then you have Jerish, and then you have a place called Gadara. Now they have updated names in cases, Gadara now, and the terms Gerasa, but we looked at those as alternatives to what happened at the Sea of Galilee, right there on the shore. A city called
Sodom.
the Sea of Galilee. Let me get
Oh,
my,
oh,
north.
okay.
my math.
I'm getting confused here.
I'm just trying to see
Ay,
if you guys remembering any of these things. So we have the places Kinneret, which in the days of Jesus was probably the right place for the pigs to go down. We've discussed that.
Oh, the piggies, yeah.
Then we came on down. We went to Madaba, which is basically a Christian center in Jordan. They have a church there that has an ancient atlas or map on the floor. Remember, we talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought, we would now go back across the Jordan area and start up, and we're going to move down the Jordan River.
Mm.
The place we're going to look at first is a place called, and there's two names again. One is called Bet Shean. That's a Hebrew.
Mm-hmm.
But it became one of the cities of the Decapolis. And the Decapolis and some of these other cities we're talking about became part of that called Decapolis. Anybody can figure out what Decapolis means?
10 cities.
10 cities.
Yes. Right. Decapolis.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the city of Bet Shean was renamed because of, over time when you had the victory of Alexander the Great, not only in Greece and other places, but across the Asian area and down through into Israel and down even to Egypt. He went also as far as India. I mean, this guy in 10 years, I think it's 10 years, I may be wrong on that, but he was able to conquer so much land, but oftentimes not have to even fight any battles, which is interesting. So he came up with a phalanx idea that you see in Roman armies later, where you have almost like a tank moving with the shields and how they did things. Alexander was brilliant. He was trained by Aristotle. Now hold it. Am I saying right? It's not Plato. Aristotle. He was trained by him, and then he died young. So that's the Decapolis forming, and they renamed Bet Shean due to that Greek influence that occurred after him to a place called Scythopolis.
Yikes.
And polis is a Greek word which means
City.
And the Scythians were a group of people in that area that they never really became a big deal, but nonetheless, the city became Scythopolis. Scythopolis.
Wow. It's
Okay.
a tongue twister.
And that becomes an important city. We're going to talk some things about it because I thought about even trying to get down into Jericho today, but I guess we're just going to have to wait because I got most of the stuff fixed up for it, but I thought, it's going to be hard to get everything done. So we're going to look at Scythopolis. I like to say that, or Bet Shean, is either way you prefer, because that's the place that something very important happened. We're going to be looking at the beginning of the slides. Has something to do with Israel's history in the past. So let's go ahead and look ahead now and see what we've got.
Okay. That might be. Oh, here we go. How about that?
Hey.
Archaeology in the cities of the Jordan River Valley. And see, the reason I mention that, because the Jordan River actually comes out of what sea?
Sea of Galilee.
Sea of Galilee, but it doesn't start there, does it?
No.
It actually flows all the way through the Sea of Galilee, coming from the north of that, where it goes into from the mountains where the snow melts and comes to River Jordan. So it's sort of an interesting situation there. But the Jordan River Valley, we're going to look through the places like we're going to look at Qumran, we're going to look at Masada, we're going to look at Jericho, we'll be looking at other things on the western side of the sea, and also the Salt Sea or the Dead Sea, as we call it sometimes. So that's sort of where we're going for the next couple times. But tonight we're going to work on the Jordan River Valley as it relates to a place called Scythopolis, and you can see the name to the left there, can't you?
Yep.
Although somebody left out a Y.
Why, we don't know.
I borrowed.
Yeah, why? Why did you do that?
I didn't do it. I just noticed that when I was looking at it. This is something that was provided on the internet. So,
yeah.
But if you look with me, I'm trying to teach you a little history as we move through, and also to work some theology, and we'll look at different things. But if you look at the cities there in the black, Scythopolis, Pella, Gerizah, Philadelphia, which we haven't talked about, We're not talking about it in America. Pella, Gadara, Rafana. These are other ones, and of course we were to Hippos. We saw that, and so anyway, these are all places that we call the cities of the Decapolis, the 10 cities. Okay. Now that provides that information. You can see the Sea of Galilee, and to the left there is Capernaum of the north, and Nazareth. And on the far area is Caesarea Philippi. By the way, one reason why Caesarea Philippi, knowing the location of it, is important is that is where Jesus met with the disciples. Remember, and he said, "Whom do men say that I am?"
Right.
Then Peter gives the confession, one of his better days. I wrote an entire book based on the fact of the Caesarea Philippi situation there. My book called "The Jesus Who Never Lived," because of how people identified Jesus at that time. You know, whom do men say? Some say you're this, some say you're that, some say you're another. And I see that also true throughout history and in even the modern church. Some people's view of Jesus is really not in conformity with what we find from the scriptures itself.
Right.
And so Caesarea Philippi is there. So you move up, you see Damascus in the north, which is the place that Paul went to, right? He passed by this area going up the road to the Damascus Road all the way up. So just give you some geography here where we are. We're going to be dealing with Scythopolis, which is that little bitty dot, that little bitty black point. But Scythopolis ought to be over a little bit to the right.
Somebody moved it, huh?
Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't figure out how to get it back. But anyway, Scythopolis goes over to the right a little bit. So you can see how it's a part of the river of the Jordan Valley, right?
Yeah.
It's part of the whole scenario there. Okay, so we have Scythopolis, and we're going to spend some time on that. It's one of my favorite places to go to. It has some interesting things there, and some things I want to talk about tonight, some things we can learn from Scripture from it. Bet Shean, Scythopolis, okay, from the Scythians. Now, to give you another perspective, I put Bet Shean, or Scythopolis, about the same place. You know, it is. It's not. I mentioned approximate locations. You'd realize I couldn't figure out how to change this, but it's going left. I could put the little arrows, and then you have the city. So you sort of know where we are. We're going to be moving down and actually go to Jericho, the very top of the Dead Sea, across from Tahahama. So you can see where that is. Qumran will go to, and also Masada. Talk about those things, but that's not tonight. Just give you a perspective of where we are in our geography and also what we're going to be doing. Keep moving. This is a place that, by the way, I should give credit. This is Todd Bolin, a friend of mine. He does a thing called Bible Places. Anybody seen his pictures?
No.
Well, you should look at Todd Bolin's stuff. He has spent a tremendous amount of time over the years. And I have little brochures to sort of push his product when I go on tours, because he has some of the most wonderful pictures throughout the lands of the Bible. And so it's a good product to get. Anyway, this is one of his pictures. Most of the rest of them, I think, are mine. But they'll see Mount Gilboa to the far edge, look toward the top, have the Herod Valley to the left. You've got Jezreel area from the west. And so it's a whole looking at that area of the world is where we're going to see our discussion tonight. So keep moving. Now, I hesitated. What do I do with this? Because this is a story that relates to Bet Shean. Because what we found, the Philistines, by the way, where did the Philistines come from?
Philistia.
Where?
Philistia.
Crete, the island of Crete. They are Greeks.
Right.
And the Philistines were Greeks, not Arabs, not Semitic. They were enemies of the Israelites. They collaborated some with some of the Canaanites against Israel. But the Philistines, they had the ability to work at iron, making swords of iron over against swords of bronze that other people had at that point. They also had chariots which did them absolutely no good when they came up toward Israel because they had to go in the mountains. They don't work that well in the mountains. So their victories really were in the plains that we think of. And modern day, what we call Palestine, I prefer to call it Philistia. It was changed by the Emperor Hadrian in AD 125 or 35. I can't remember which it is. So that's sort of the people we're talking about. The Philistines fought against Israel, and the men of Israel fled from before the Philistines. Now think about this. Why would they flee? Because the Philistines were powerful armies with iron or steel swords, or maybe I say iron swords, and they were quite good fighters. So what you have is that the Israelites got to a place called Mount Gilboa, which is close to where we're looking at with Beth Shean. They overtook Saul and his sons, and the Philistines killed Jonathan, Abinadab, and I've never even heard of this guy hardly. Kishua, the sons of Saul. Don, you may know more about him. I don't remember reading much about him. But it says he's a son of Saul according to the text here. This is out of the Bible.
Right. At least it's not the son of Sam, so that's good.
Right.
Oh boy, there we go. And the Philistines killed them. See, the battle then went hard against Saul, and the archers overtook him, and he was greatly distressed by reason of the archers. You can imagine that problem. Then Saul said to his armor bearer, "Draw your sword and thrust me through with it, lest these uncircumcised come and thrust me through and abuse me." But his armor bearer would not, for he was terrified. You're going to go around killing the king, you know.
Yeah.
Therefore, Saul took his sword and fell on it, committed suicide. When his armor bearer saw that Saul was dead, he likewise fell on his sword and died with him. So Saul died with his 3 sons, his armor bearer, and all his men that same day together. That's the story of the defeat of ultimately Saul. You don't see the word David in here, do you? David's not involved in this one. He becomes king afterwards, though.
Right.
But anyway, in verse 7, when the men of Israel who were on the other side of the valley and those who were beyond the Jordan, and I just got through showing you the valley area a moment ago, right? That's what we're talking about. Saul and his son was dead. They abandoned the cities and fled, and the Philistines came after them. On this next day, when the Philistines came to strip the slain, they found Saul and his 3 sons fallen on. It doesn't say, there's got to be something missing there, maybe falling on their swords. I don't know what happened here. They cut off his head, stripped off his armor, sent him into the land of the Philistines, all around to carry the news of the house of it. To the house of their idols, to the people. By the way, in the ancient world, the victories of various peoples, there were no atheists to be found. The victories of the people in all these various lands, when you were victorious, it's an honor to their God. They say, our God's better than your God. Our God defeated your God. I mean, that's how they looked at it. And so, anyway, so they cut off his head and did all these things. They put his armor in the house of Ashtaroth. Ashtaroth. Okay. And they fastened his body to the wall of Beth Shean. Now, that spelling in the translation I was using has a S-H-A-N. I've never really seen it that way. It's usually S-H-E-A-N, but whatever. But notice they put the bodies of these men on the walls of the city of Beth Shean, which apparently was in there. They had defeated all that area, so now they have this city. Why do you think they put the bodies on the walls?
Put them on display.
Warning to others.
What good would that do?
It's a warning to others who might think to take them on.
Yeah, it's a warning. It's a warning, but it's also a statement of they are always saying, "See, our God won."
Right.
So it's a humiliation.
Yes. When the inhabitants of Gilead heard what the Philistines had done to Saul, and all the valiant men rose, went all night, took the body of Saul and the bodies of his sons from the wall of Beth-shean, and they came to Gabish and buried them there. They took their bones and buried them under the tamarisk tree in Gabish and fasted.
7 days.
Yeah, 7 days. I just want you to see the story. This is the big story around Beth-shean. And there's also, I've heard people talk a lot about these ones who came and took the bodies down. They were taking a chance, but they also had been they weren't Jews, they weren't Israelites, but they had been in treaty with the Jews. They had a warm, firm kind of relationship. And so these individuals are usually honored for the fact that they had this kind of consideration for the Jews who were killed there, particularly the royal family. Anyway, let's move on. That's the story behind all of this.
Interesting.
It became a Canaanite fortress, obviously, and the Canaanites and the Philistines had, at times, they had relation together. In other words, they got along some, and they were both all against Israel. Okay, now let's keep moving. Beth-shean, Scythopolis. Okay, move along. Okay, this is going to be the first I show you. The reason why I'm going to show you this first, this is the Colosseum, and Colosseums, they have combat and various other kinds of things. I started going to Israel in 1996, I think it was, but I'd gone there every year for, went there. I've gone there about 45 times, but when I first started going, we would go to Beth-shean with the tour guide and the bus and so forth, and they would drive by this place and go to the city where they had all these things I'm going to show you in a moment. And finally, about the third or fourth trip with someone, I said, why don't we stop at the Colosseum? I mean, we keep passing this thing up. And so we went back to the Colosseum, and after that, I made a point. We go to the Colosseum before we go to the city. Now, this is outside the city a little ways. I mean, we're not talking about like a couple city blocks at the max, maybe even.
Okay.
But let's look at this now, because this is an important something to talk about. Continue.
Next. Oh.
This is inside the Colosseum. Now, I had several different pictures, and I wasn't sure how many to put it in. I have some inside, but there's a lot of people on the tours roaming around and so forth. It was hard to get a good shot. And so if you'll see how that goes around, this is not a high wall in comparison to, what you see like at the Colosseum in, Rome or something. But it is those, you can see the little doors around that come out of the wall.
Yeah.
And that's where either animals came out of or people came out of, like you see in Rome. You had a place, you had a staging area and underneath, and then you say, go for it.
Right.
So they would come out, whoever did. They had gladiatorial combat in here some, and they also had animals. But what is, in my respect, why I want to look at this is because after the Jews had actually been defeated in AD 70, many of the Jews were taken to Rome, as you know. And most of those Jews, they weren't put into being slaves so much. They were put into combat in the Colosseum in Rome. I mean, they were either fed to lions or they had to go through all sorts of things with gladiators. This was punishment. And so even here at this Colosseum in Israel, there also was that kind of activity after the time of the 70 AD destruction of Jerusalem. So when I go in there, I think about all these Jews, maybe even some who were believers at that time, who had to endure this place. And the writer of Hebrews talks about the kind of situations that Christians have been put in. To go to the next one, you get a different picture. Okay, there's me, and we don't have a lot of people there, but at the beginning of it, you have, if you'll look to the side, you can see these stands that sort of like a little, there's about 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe seats. They have these on the other side too. They had places for people to sit to watch the entertainment, as it were. And so this is a place that we always go to first. And we can talk about, the one in Rome. I want people to know that Christians, according to Scripture, the writer of Hebrews, have gone through much torment, and they're encountering some of that in Islam right now at certain places. And to be a Christian doesn't mean you're, the life always goes good for you in the sense of what the world views as good. We sometimes have to die for Christ. That's not something, the idea of going and suffering this is not an ideal situation in my perspective. Obviously, I'm not sadistic. But on the other hand, this is something believers have, that we are members of the same body, those that have gone on.
Ooh, nice.
Now, let me try to see if I can explain to you where we are. We're actually on a hill there. And when you come into the gate into the area of Scythopolis, of course, there's a wall all around this. And when you come in the gate, you have a place up there to get something to eat and drink, so forth. They also have, and I didn't put it on, I could have, but they have a model of Scythopolis there, which shows you all the components and some kind of metal. I don't know how they do that, but anyway, it's they have everything depicted there on this big map that's not like a map with paper. It's made with metal, and they show everything. And that's where the guide usually explains, where we are and what you're looking at and so forth. It's also where, by the way, when you get ready to leave, you can get a good, get a good ice cream or something.
Ooh.
Now, I want to put that in there just in case you want to see something significant.
Is that a trail, or is that some stairs going up the mountain there?
I'm going to explain that, but good point. You notice they have columns. All the ancient cities had columns. Usually had something on the top of the columns made up of either one or two or three kinds of patterns. One was called the Doric, which basically is very bland, just a little something up there. One is called Ionic, which is a little bit more sophisticated, a little bit more looks more
fancy.
More fancy, yeah, sort of like flowers. But the major one that sort of won out in the ancient world, you see most places, is the Corinthian style. It comes out of Corinth. And so, but you have all these kinds of what you would call, I can't even think what to call those right now, but columns, yes.
The capitals, or what you're describing on top of the columns?
The columns are straight, and the capitals go on top of it.
Yeah.
Right.
And the city streets, mostly like in Laodicea, you go there, you can see that so much going back and forth on the streets, probably with chariots, that they begin to form grooves into the stone.
Sure.
There's a little bit of that here too. But let me say a few things about this before we go to the next pictures, because I had to do it from different angles here. That's a street you'd go into first. You'd walk all the way to the end. Now, at the very end of this, there's what is called an odeum. It's not a theater. It's a lesser kind of place, or like people doing readings and some things like that, some music and so forth. The theaters were reserved for other things, so we'll talk about that later. But that's at the very end. Then you go to the right, and that's where the temple was, and I'll show that to you in a minute. And then you'd walk around that, and you can still go up the stairs all the way up to the top of the hill. Of the hill. So you go up there, and you'll see certain things from Egypt, because the Egyptians at one time had actually conquered this part of the land and all the way down to the area of Egypt. You can imagine. Think about where Egypt is, and think about the Israelites came out of Egypt, and then you have, the Gaza Strip, as they call it. Going down there and the what would they call Palestine to the east. I don't like the term actually. I like to keep the Philistia, but nonetheless, going up and going into the north. Well, the Egyptians conquered a lot of places. They came all the way through here several times over the years, and this is one place they conquered. They have some things up there that are Egyptian to look at. There's also something to the far top left, and you can't see it right now. I think one of my other pictures will have it. There's a tree, and I keep thinking that's a hanging tree or something. see what I'm talking about when we look at it.
Okay.
I never got the explanation. What kind of tree is this, and why is it that way? But we'll take a look at it, and you can tell me. You're going to see on the far left as you come in, there are shops, and I can't do it with anything I have here. But actually, as you look to the left, you see that open area that's sort of you can enter into like a parking lot right there, about halfway up the road to the left.
On the left, that area there.
Those are shops. All those things there are made of basalt. They're not made of other kinds of stone. They're made of basalt, and they go around there. And shops had things to sell, and also all the shops in the Greek world tended to also have these places for other purposes. So that's what we have here. Let's continue now. Here are the shops, a little bit farther look into it. They, they don't look particularly attractive to us today, but you realize we're talking about, more than 2,000 years ago. They sort of go into disrepair a little bit. But there's some other places around there, but these are places people shopped, and also you had for other purposes. So that's what you have on the left. Continue on. This gives you a wider view of it, show you how many are right here. Actually, if I were to have you to turn left and look more over here, you see that there's other ones that are bigger that are used for different purposes. Looks like they were places used probably for, getting massages or, things like that, some other kinds of activities. And, but these shops are found there. Now let's keep going. That gives you a view to the right a little bit more. And you can see over to the far right, you see lots and lots of columns too. That is when the place is green. Notice it's green over against the other one, which was sort of dried out. It shows they have rain here. And so they're very green. They have the steps. You can see that. And there's a temple between those columns if you look at the whole thing. There's also something I didn't put in here, but they do, like every place you go to, you'll be surprised. They do have restrooms everywhere. And these are not for us. They were for them. But they're strange, and I'll let it be what it is.
Yeah.
Now, although we're getting closer, but anyway, they didn't have any problems. Now, to the right, we're going to see a theater in just a moment at Beth Shean, and we'll talk about some things there. Okay, now if you look at this, you'll see if you sort of have this hill or this tell in the middle of everything. Can you see that from each angle we come? It looks like it's in the center, so to speak, and far away. And if you were to go to the side of this tail and just keep walking around it to the, let's see, what would this be on? This would be the north in the city as reference to Israel. And you go around there, and that's actually a city gate out, and there was a city gate coming in the other direction too when you come in. Now, what you're looking at partly here is a theater. Can you see the stage?
Yeah. I see the seats too.
That's where people stood. And there's entrances. You can see on the left and right entrances, and there's also entrances that go right off the stage on both sides too to get out. You have all these. This was a place we usually met oftentimes for teaching, on doing tours. You let people sit in the theater. You might have 20, 30, 40 people, whatever it is, and they sit there, and you can have teaching. I do that all over the country of Israel, and any place they can have a place for people to sit and you can sort of talk. But most of these theaters, like I expressed to you before, are fascinating. They didn't have any of the stuff we have, like microphones and lights, this kind of stuff. And yet you can actually, the way they built these with the stone, they have sounding in there. You can be talking fairly light and you can be heard around. So I don't know if they, when that was invented, but you find that throughout the ancient world, they didn't have microphones, but you could hear people clearly talk. And that's always interesting to me. But this goes around. By the way, I don't know if we'll see the theater. I think we do. You'll see the theater toward the end, so I'll talk to you about that then.
Mm-hmm.
Let's keep moving. There I am, Arjan.
Is that an actor?
He's an actor there. That he's acting up. And by the way, at that point, I'd lost weight. It looks like, I'm happy to say.
Oh,
Trying to do that again.
okay.
But I'm younger there. But that actually is the entrance up into the theater area.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to tell you a story about that when we get to it. Over the years, they had an earthquake. I think they had maybe a couple of earthquakes in this area of the world, and I think it had effects on Bet Shean. The things fell over, a lot of them, and some had to be sort of put back up. And this is the steps you can see that are built in. And I'm actually looking out at the hill that you've seen, and things in between that. And so we'll look at, there's a road going by to walk on. And there you have parts of the theater. You can see the capitals at the top. You can see the stone. For some reason, I'm having trouble with that word today.
Columns.
What?
The columns?
Columns. That's the word I need. I know.
Oh, okay.
Obviously, it's just that my brain all of a sudden says, I don't want you to know that word right now. I'm still having a little residuals that come from a surgery that I had a year ago. They went into I was on 5 hours of anesthesia, and it affected the synapses and so forth that are in your brain. And sometimes this happens. But nonetheless, you see the columns and the capitals and so forth. Actually, to the right of that right capital going down is where the restroom is. And so you have the street in front of you now. Let's continue on. That's looking at it from probably from our standpoint at the north. And then you can see that some of it's still dry and other portions are beginning to come back to life again. Remember how green it was a moment ago, and how other words, they do have rain, and as the rain comes, the ground and the grass and all these things begin to respond to that. And what you do is you come up that main street we were at just a moment ago, and you actually can go up there. There's no problem. Look around. And I have some pictures from there we'll see in a moment. But you can then go around this road, and you go up on a little bitty mountain area, not very high, but going up and go all the way back to the theater. So there's a lot of stuff in between here that we're not seeing. You'll see some of it in a moment, at least portions of it. But anyway, that's the hill upon which now Saul and Jonathan and the sons and so forth and others were not put against the hill. There used to be a big wall there.
Oh.
See, on it, you would have a tail for protection, right? But also you'd have a wall, and you could actually fight from the top of the wall. People couldn't get in. This is how things were laid out. But this shows you the streets in reference to the columns that you saw a while ago. And if you were to walk if you could walk from the back there and walk up this way as you're watching it, that's the way you would come, and you would make either a left and go to the Odeum, or go to the other shops and so forth, or you would make a right and you would go up the stairs to the temple. Give you a perspective what's there. And these earthquakes, I don't know, Don or someone else may know the year for the earthquakes here. I'm trying to think when it was, and I just don't have it in front of me right now. But I think they had two over a period of several hundred years. And so you reconstruct and so forth. Now, I want to say something about what's here. At one time, and this changed. Of course,
Dr. House, if I can interrupt you, I just looked it up for us. It was 749 AD when basically the earthquake destroyed the place.
Okay. So actually, it was quite a bit after the people lived there, probably.
Yeah, I just thought I'd.
Yeah, well, good. I appreciate the information. Yeah, I couldn't remember exactly when it was, but it destroyed a lot. Of course, you have to reconstruct if you're going to have a place like this. And if you looked up, I wonder, Faber, if I think there were actually two that occurred at different periods of time, but
I'll check it and see.
I could be wrong on that. I'm just making a comment. So the point is, at one time there were columns lying on the streets. Okay, and they found when they came in and sort of in modern days and looked there, they found the skeleton of a man who was underneath a column that had fallen on him, and he had his hand outstretched for something.
Wow.
At about a foot beyond his hand, there was a purse with his money in it. And it was an interesting find. They removed that. They probably put it in a museum or something. But when I went there, that you could still see where it was. They didn't have the money there, but you could tell, where it occurred. And this man, in the midst of all the danger that was occurring, he was reaching out for his money.
Wow.
It just says something about, not to seek things on earth.
Yeah.
Where
human nature hasn't changed much.
No, it hasn't.
No.
I mean, you should get out of there and get away from it, but he just was not going to let that money go. It's like that man that Jesus said about, I'm going to build some bigger barns, make a bigger business.
Yeah.
I'm going to do all this major stuff. And God says to him, well, let's see now. Tonight your soul is required of you. Who will have these things now? And it's putting perspective.
Absolutely.
So I always thought that was interesting when I went by there. Now, this is part of the other side of the theater. You can see the other one side we've looked at. This is the second side. And you can look across and exactly sort of what's happening there from our going into the city. Both sides have this kind of structure on the right of the stairs and, the seating area. So you can actually go through that to the right and go one way up the city, or go to the left and go up the other way. So that's the way that's set up.
So apparently this region has seismic activity quite often, but they're usually too small to be felt unless you have instruments. But there were several major ones that began even in the BC times, like 1500 to 1400 BC.
Yeah.
The late Bronze Age, and then there was 1180 to 1100 BC. Then another earthquake at 363 AD, partial destruction, and then that major one that Mr. Faber talked about in 749, that one literally destroyed the Roman city, and it was one of the most significant ones. But there's been a lot since, even up to the time since 1950, more or less 99 events in that area, and yeah.
Wow. I'm thinking that event I talked to you about, the guy, being underneath the stone pillar there, the column, and reaching out for money. I suspect that occurred probably in the 60s that you mentioned. The reason why, because, the idea of actually having a purse with your money in it, that's very much ancient, more than modern.
Right.
And so I suspect that might be true, and found that when they first found it again, when they, these places have just gradually been developed over many years since archaeology started being involved. Yeah. People have not been archaeologists for a long time. That really only began just, my goodness, let me try to think back into it. It's only been in the last couple hundred years, let's put it in there, that we've really had people digging up stuff and looking and learning and museums and all those things. People in the ancient days didn't care anything about this stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
Continue moving on.
They just kept on going and building on top of the others.
Now, we're on top of the mountain now, is where we're looking at this from. And it's you can sort of see the destruction in the area below, and you're looking back toward where the Colosseum would be. It'd be over out the building and out to the right a little bit. And this is the area that we were looking into that people sat and they heard, people do. They didn't have TV, but something similar. They had people on the stage and doing all sorts of activities.
Yeah.
I think I probably mentioned it to you before. One thing I found is interesting. In the ancient world, the people were the actors were usually slaves.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And
they worked for free, huh?
What a contrast with modern days.
They worked for free.
They worked for free. and they probably didn't have nice houses to live in and different things like that.
No swimming pools.
So this is the way it's laid out. And you look at this, and I have a question about it, because usually Roman theaters have one structure and Greeks have another. So I want you to look at this theater from our angle back toward the trees and tell me, do you think this is Roman or is it Greek?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say it probably leans toward a Greek because it's against something that's natural, but
Greek.
It's Greek.
It's Greek to me.
Yeah, it's Greek to me too. I think so.
I don't know. It seems kind of Roman, even though there is a background there.
I think it's Roman. It's not built into the side of a mountain or something.
No, actually, if you were to look on the other side, if you could walk around the back, it does not. It's not built into.
Oh, it looks like it is, but it's not
a hillside. It's not built into a hillside.
Okay, good.
Matter of fact, you get on the other side of this, and you'll see that there are gigantic structures built underneath of stone that hold it up.
So this picture is deceptive.
Yes, it's deceptive.
That was a trick question.
It was.
Yeah, but it's a learning process.
There you go.
So you understand that when you see something,
right? So we just learned that we can't trust you,
or at least your questions.
Teachers ask questions.
There you go.
And so if you look, in Ephesus and so many other places that we've looked at, they're built into a hillside.
Right.
Laodicea the same way. All these places. This actually, I would think it would be done by the Greek, but the reason why it didn't happen that way is probably because you don't have a massive hillside to work with.
Right.
Mm-hmm. You can see it's sort of low, and it was built after the time the area of the city was originally not Greek. It was really Canaanite, and those kind of things. And they didn't follow that structure.
And then after the Canaanites, of course, it was an Egyptian city for probably 500 years.
Yeah. So you didn't have those kind of influences for so long.
Correct.
Like you have in places in the seven churches, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So, and if you go the other side, it's obvious, like I said. But
it looked like it was leaning on the trees, and I thought maybe that was like a hill.
If you look at the top of the stairs, you can see there are some entrances up there.
Okay.
See those big holes?
Yeah.
People walk through that. Yeah, you can. That's how you get up there. Okay. You actually, on the other side, you walk up a stairway up until you actually walk through those big entrances or exits, whichever way you want to put it. Of course, the exits are also at the bottom. You saw the exits a while ago, right. Where you have those ways out. So that's the way in. This is the way out. So
crowd control. They had a crowd control. Yeah.
Okay.
What?
Now, next week we're going to have the ancient roads in the city of Jericho. But I think what I'm going to do with the time left is I'd like to discuss a little bit more about the idea of the Decapolis. These were very important cities. And I think the scripture actually uses that term, doesn't it? Talks about the Decapolis.
It does.
And so these came about because largely of Alexander the Great. He came and made Greek cities, and the Greek cities had a long-standing influence. And one thing you find out about the Greek society is that the Greeks they were very smart, They were good in math and geometry and literature and philosophy. The Greeks were brilliant people and had a lot of influence in the ancient world. As a matter of fact, they oftentimes it's been said that Rome conquered Greece, but actually Greece conquered Rome.
Yeah. They kept a lot of their customs.
Yeah, well, yes, the Romans borrowed from the Greeks.
Yeah.
So much of what they had. And so
to interject something there, Dr. House, that shocked me in one of my trips, I guess when I was in Greece, looking at the Mediterranean map, I saw where many of the cities that we now associate with Spain and France, they were Greek cities.
Yeah.
And that was shocking to me. I had no idea that the Greek Empire had gotten that far west.
They were everywhere.
The Greek Empire was a massive thing. They went into Egypt, into Israel, and to places that go north of Israel, like Syria and so forth, and all the way across Asia. They had influence even to the point of if you look at the difference between, for example, what we call Greece today, Greece, and Asia Minor, you have hundreds of occupable, you can occupy, but many that you can't. But they have islands everywhere throughout the Mediterranean area,
right.
And then they had tremendous influence on even from northern Africa. You've heard of Hannibal?
Right.
Yeah, he came from an area that was like Phoenicia, but he was heavily influenced by Greek thought.
My father was a historian, and he was a medical doctor, a very brilliant guy. And when I was little, he was teaching me about ancient history, and he would tell me that there was a parallel sort of. He said, son, the Greeks were to the Romans were sort of like the British were to us. He said, the Greeks, a person might spend a lifetime making one column. That would be the work of their life. The Romans did it in a day. They invented concrete.
Right.
They made things that looked Greek, but they were Romans. And as you said, they borrowed the culture of the Greeks in order to have that status and that I mean, they really looked up to them. They never went in and obliterated their cities or anything else. They were emulating them.
Mm-hmm.
Just think about this one simple thought. The world at the time of Jesus and afterwards had been controlled by the Roman Empire. Right. But the New Testament is in Greek.
Right.
It was the language of the world.
Yes.
Even though the Romans and their Latin had influence, even they had to learn Greek to function.
Exactly.
So it's an amazing thing. And that's not true of modern Greek, as far as I can tell, and experiences there. But the ancient, remember who started the idea of a democratic government?
Yeah, it was the Greeks.
The Greeks, right there at the Areopagus. If you look down, you can see the place it happened. So in so many ways, they had thoughts that were influential in religion, in our architecture, and language, and military.
All of our Western thinking.
Yeah.
So
you have to thank them for that, although they screwed up sometimes. They had belief in the deities, but were even there by the time of Philo in Alexandria, which was Greek in Egypt. That's where Origen and others, came from. But and who was the guy that helped Paul out? I'm trying to think of the name. Aquilus and Priscilla. Paulus. Yeah.
Paulus
was Greek.
Right.
And so it was a very intellectual kind of setting. But the intelligentsia finally, by the time of the 1st century BC into the 1st century AD, began to say, well, all these gods probably don't exist, but they're in our stories of our history, in our ancient life and what
our culture,
culture. So they begin to speak of them in more fable form, but they also didn't even believe in those. If you look at my Visual Study Bible in chapter 1 on Genesis, when I deal with the fact of the issue of, the whole issue of evolution and first cause, and this kind of idea, people argue, either that embracing those things. When you look at the philosophers, they really right on. They understood the concept of first cause, and nothing cannot produce nothing.
Right.
Plato says very clearly, the uncreated cannot create.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's what he's saying. And so in many ways, they had great influences, even in the areas of philosophy and religion.
Mm.
Paul was very knowledgeable about Greek, for he was able to actually do a tit for tat, with the philosophers on top of the what we call the Areopagus.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, you go a little lower, is what they call also Mars Hill, Latin, but kind of thing. But anyway, Paul was able to interact with these guys, and if you didn't have very much hope to win very many of them.
Paul quotes very minor Greek poets
Right.
from memory.
There you go.
Which means his knowledge of Greek literature would put an American literary scholar to shame.
That's a really good point, Donald.
Yeah.
That's
He's
a great
steeped
point,
in the Old Testament. He knows the rabbinical lore. He also knows the culture of the people he's trying to reach on a very profound level. But he quotes minor poets, not major ones. You'd expect maybe he'd know Homer, but no, he quotes people you've never heard of. And
I'm sure
he does it from memory because
Yeah.
he's constantly on the move. He can't carry his library with him. They didn't have, they didn't have those machines back then that let us do that. They didn't have a phone.
He is schooled. He is educated. He knows.
Yeah.
So, he's
This
the right man for the job that God
Absolutely.
assigned him to.
I recently was preaching in Titus, and Paul tells Titus, these Cretans, he said, it's known that all of the philosophers tell us they're all liars. And I went and looked that up, and it says, as Dr. Williams is saying, the poets all of philosophers at that time said the Cretans were liars. He was quoting people. That was their culture, their ethos.
That really does something to us, though, because the idea of people saying, I don't need to know this, I don't need to know that.
Mm-hmm.
Paul was able to do what he did because he was trained to do the job.
Right. He was the right man for the job.
Yeah, he would like Donna said there. I mean, just think if he had come up there and he said, I don't know anything about Greek scholars and Greek philosophers and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
You might as well just go back home.
No credibility.
Yeah. Sure, we need some street cred. Yeah.
Well, let me ask any questions or so forth that you want to ask. Next week we're going to have a full time going through Jericho. But what would you like to hear? Anything else to say now? We got just a few minutes left.
I've got a trivia question, Wayne.
Oh.
Okay.
That little tree on that mound at Bet Shem, what movie was that little tree in?
It was in a movie, eh?
Wow.
You mean the one at the top of the mound we saw today?
It was in a movie.
Hang 'em high? I don't
know. That's the first thing that came to my mind.
There was a tree in that movie for sure.
Jesus Christ Superstar was filmed. Part of it was filmed there.
Are you serious? Why would they do that?
It was filmed there. And also the theater there is where Charlton Heston did an audio Bible. And part of that audio Bible, he recorded there at that theater.
Oh,
that is super interesting.
I had no knowledge of that. I next time I go there, I'm going to look and see if they have anything on it. I'll do a trivia with them.
Maybe he signed a wall there or something.
Trying to give me the ice cream.
Yeah. Cool.
Cool.
You.
Yeah.
Why don't we start our wrap up here, and we'll pick it up next week.
But I hope you enjoyed Scythopolis. It's a wonderful site, and it's far more impressive when you're there, obviously, than what we did. But we'll look now at Jericho, which has some fascinating things. So we'll be looking at that next time.
I think whoever named Scythopolis must have had a lisp.
I like Minneapolis
They
better.
weren't very creative.
Well, apparently not.
Okay, so
All righty.
All right.
wave goodbye to everybody out there, and
Sayonara.
Bye.
Adios.